kind of a two-part. Last week we started working on hips with the forward folding, and we talked about kind of the muscles around the legs and how it affects the rotation of the pelvis, things like that. Oh, we got a little kitty there. I see Jessica's cat. I'm such a cat lover. So tonight, a little different. We're going to work on hip rotation. So we have a high degree of rotation in our hips, but in yoga, we mostly focus on what's called external rotation. So if you're sitting cross-legged, your legs are in external rotation. If you're doing something like tree pose or bound angle pose, or even a warrior two, all of these things are external rotation. So that's when the knee is out to the side. So when I take my knee out to the side, that's external rotation. And we have a lot of that in yoga. But internal rotation is not something we see a lot of. There are a few things that we do with internal rotation, and I've been noticing a lot in, I'm going to turn this light out while I'm having this initial chat because it's like really bright in my eyes. I was noticing a lot in some of my in-person students that internal rotation is really challenging for people, and even for myself. It's not something we do in our everyday lives so much. It's not even something we do in our yoga practice. So I was researching it a little bit. And one of the things I learned in the research, and if anyone wants the article, I can send it to you, is that when we lack the ability to do internal rotation of the legs and the hips, it can affect our knees and it can affect our lower back, particularly our SI joints. And I see so many people that have SI joint problems. So I decided to kind of come up with a sequence to work on internal rotation of the legs. So you're going to learn about that as we go through our sequence tonight. I just want to caution you that this is something that we're not used to doing so much of, and we want to really be careful. No, I don't think anyone's going to hurt themselves, but listen to your body, particularly what's going on in your knees, what's going on in your lower back. So if anything bothers you, then don't go as far into a movement pattern, and just respect your body's limits, because you may not have a lot of internal rotation to start out. We're hoping to increase that. I think that's all I wanted to say about what we're doing. So I have a blanket down. We definitely are going to need at least one block. Your tennis balls for later at the end of class. Maybe another blanket or pillow for your head. And I think that will do it. So I'm going to head back to the mat, and you guys can go ahead and come on your backs. We're going to start in the same position we started in, I think, last week. We're going to do feet flat, knees bent, and let your knees drop in together. So have the feet as wide as your mat, and let the knees drop in. And if that's not comfortable, then feel free to keep the knees separated. Cindy, move your feet in a little closer to your hips, so they're more under, like close to feet under your knees. Yeah, good. And then just let the knees drop in together. So you're already in a pose that's internal rotation in this position called constructive rest. So we'll start there. Anytime the leg bones turn in and the feet go out, we're in internal rotation. And you might notice that as you take your knees together and feet apart, there's almost a sense of broadening into the lower back. So this is really nice for the SI joints. If we do a little internal rotation, it helps open up the lower back a bit. So see if you might be able to notice that. Okay, I'm going to head back. Everybody on mute. And if you have any questions, feel free to unmute. Okay, so coming into your breathing, and we'll do as we usually do, our diaphragmatic low belly breath. And let's take about 3 more cycles here just to start to settle in. So we'll do a little bit of somatic work in the beginning, and then we will progress to some standing work. And we'll finish up with a little ball work to release. So after that third breath, let's go ahead and straighten the legs. And then bring your awareness to your right leg and start to turn the toes and leg out and turn the toes and leg in. Just do that one time and pause. And then do your other leg, turn the leg out, that's external rotation, and then turn the leg in, and then pause. And then just take a little peek at your toes. And notice, you might even need to lift your head a little bit. Notice if they flop out, maybe they turn in, maybe they're neutral. A lot of us tend to have a little bit of turning the feet out, particularly if you practice any kind of dance, if you're tight in your outer hips, outer legs, we're going to have more natural external rotation. And that can be problematic for our lower back and our knees. So we want to start to correct that. So we're going to work with the right leg again. Turn the right leg out all the way as far as it'll go, but without force, just gently. And then turn the leg in again. Now do it a few times. Turn the leg out and turn the leg in. Notice any sensations in the leg. So as you turn the leg out, notice maybe some muscles in that upper outer leg engage. You might be a little different than me. And then as you turn in, I feel it a little bit more inner thigh, but you might be different. Okay, let's do that on the other leg. So just starting with a little exploration. Turn the leg out and turn the leg in. And going side to side. Notice again those muscles that are engaging to make that movement happen. And then notice if there's a big difference between one leg versus the other. Now we're going to do both at the same time in a moment. You'll be able to see it a little better. So now pause. And we're going to do both at the same time. Turn both legs out and notice if one leg goes further than the other. And then turn both legs in. And you want to feel like you're turning your whole leg, not just your foot. So kind of from all the way deep in your hip joint, rotate. Go from internal to external rotation. Okay, now go ahead and pause and bend the knees. And take your feet as wide apart as the mat. And then we're going to do the same thing, but with knees bent. So take the right knee out to the side, external rotation, and then drop it in towards center, internal rotation. And let's do that a few times. Drop it open. Again, notice maybe the muscles engaging. And as you drop it in, what do you feel in there? So I get a little more stretch on that outer band of the leg. And by the way, the muscles that are for internal rotation, we have kind of our side glutes, our glute medius, glute minimus. There's a little muscle at the top side of your pelvis called the TFL. That's a big player. And also your inner thigh muscles, your adductors. Do that on the other side now. Drop the leg open and then into center. Again, you might notice, does one leg drop in or out farther than the other? So we start to become aware of imbalances that we might have. And we're awakening muscles that potentially are kind of sleepy. These little glute medius minimus muscles are not ones that we often work. Okay, come back to center, grab your block. And we're going to take the block between the knees, inner knees. And we're going to bring the knees over the hips. And press your lower back down so your core is engaged. Squeeze the block between your inner thighs and flex your feet. From here, take your right shin and foot and draw it out to the side. And as you take your shin and foot out to the side, the leg bone turns in a little bit, the upper leg bone, and then bring that back in. And if you're not sure, you can take a peek. Let's do 2 more on the right. Take the right leg out, so it's just the shin and the foot out to the side, and then bring it back in. Remember to keep that lower back pressing into the ground. 1 more time, right side, and then back in. Okay, now other side, left foot and shin move away from the midline and then back to center. And then repeat that. Take your foot and your shin out to the side and back to center. 1 more time. Good, and then release, pause for a moment because I've got to get the kitties out of here. They're climbing all over the place. So give me 1 sec. They're not going to be happy, but here we go. Sorry, guys. Okay. So we had a little break. Let's do that again. Block between the inner knees, lower back pressing down, core engaged, flex your feet. Now alternate, right shin and foot. Move away from the midline. Bring it back in. Left foot and shin out to the side, bring it back in, and alternate. Again, notice muscles that are working here. Notice if one leg goes out farther than the other. And notice that the leg bone turns in as the shin and foot go out. So there's going to be a lot of this type of action tonight. 1 more time each side. Good, and let it go. And you'll probably be feeling your hips tomorrow or maybe even already tonight, so don't curse me out. We're doing some good work for those outer hips. Okay, we're gonna prop up onto our forearms. So your forearms are down. Try not to sink into your shoulders. So we're gonna press down into the forearms, lift your chest, take your feet apart a little wider than your hips, and windshield wiper right to left. Now, as we windshield wiper right to left, 1 leg is external, 1 leg is internal. Next time the legs go to the right, keep them there. Legs to the right, take your right foot, lift it up, and place it on top of your left leg. And then you're going to get more internal rotation on that left side. Good, release. Take your knees over to the left. And take your left foot on top of your outer right thigh. Again, notice, for me, my right thigh goes much closer to the floor. Try not to sink into your shoulders. And then release. Back to center. Press yourself all the way up onto your hands. Again, lift your chest. And windshield wiper your legs right to left. And then keep the legs over to the right. Take your right foot on top of your left thigh. Now from here, walk yourself up and fold over your right knee. So your hands are going to frame it. Hold there for another breath. So it's pinning that left leg down. And then bring yourself back. Set both feet down. Drop your knees over to the left. Take your left foot on top of your right thigh, and then walk yourself forward and fold over the left leg. Okay, come all the way back up, both feet flat, and then grab 2 blocks. 1 block between your inner knees, or inner thighs, somewhere in there, on the narrowest setting, so the skinniest way. And then the other block's gonna go between your feet and you're gonna go on the medium way. So like the block as if it were be flat on the floor, put that between your feet and hug it between your feet. This one's a little challenging. We're gonna strengthen the internal rotation muscles without going into internal rotation, but we're squeezing the block. So squeeze the block between your feet and your legs or your knees, and then we're gonna lift that up. Good, now from here, straighten the legs any amount, and then pull them in to the chest. And do that a few times. And those inner legs are gonna be working. Good. 3 more, try to keep your chest lifted. And set it down. Okay, set those blocks off to the side. And let's come into tabletop position, into all fours. And we'll do our 5 rounds of cat-cows. So inhale, sit bones, chest lift. Exhale, round. Now, the legs are pretty neutral in cat-cow, but as you take your inhale, the thighs are going a little internal, just a little bit. And then as you exhale, the thighs go just a little external, just by the movement of the pelvis. So you might be able to sense that, you might not. No worries either way. And after this next round, go ahead and make your way into child's pose, knees wide, and your arms could be forward or under your head. And now the legs are in external rotation. So knees are out to the sides, away from the midline. Hold that for another breath. And then let's go ahead, come back up into tabletop position. And we're gonna do some internal rotation again by taking your right foot, lift it up, and take it out to the side. And as you take your shin and foot out to the side, the thigh turns inward, and then bring it back. And let's do 2 more on the right. Shin and foot out to the side. Notice any muscles that are working. Back, and 1 more. Good. Okay, other side 3 times, and then we're gonna alternate again. Left shin and foot out, and bring it back to midline. And every time you take that foot out, the thigh is turning in a little bit. Now after that 3rd one, alternate a few rounds. So right foot, and then left foot. So our body has so many muscles. I wish I knew the number off the top of my head, but a lot of them are not awakened. So they're kind of sleepy, particularly these glute minimus medius muscles. So we're trying to help the body work more synergistically by awakening these sleepy muscles. Back to center, and then take both feet and shins out to the side, any amount. Inhale here in the forward position, and as you exhale, start to move your hips back any amount. You don't have to go all the way, and I would recommend not going all the way. And then we'll go forward and back a few times. So when certain muscles are sleepy, other muscles have to work harder and compensate. And then that creates imbalances. When we wake up some of these sleepy muscles, it can give other muscles a little break and bring more balance into our musculoskeletal system. Okay, come back up into table. And let's take another brief child's pose. Rest your wrists for a moment. And then back up one more time in tabletop position. So we're gonna do kind of some figure 8 action. We're gonna take the right leg back and we're gonna bend the knee and bring that knee over towards your left wrist, that's internal, then out to the side and to the back. So we move from internal to external. So over to the left, out to the side, and back around. So I'm really working those hips a bit here. And release. Let's do the other side. So you're going to bring that left leg back and then bend the knee, pull it in and over to the right, out to the side, and back around. Internal, external. Make that loop. Last one. And let it go. Okay, we're going to take our blanket off the mat. If you have one down. And let's come into downward facing dog when you're ready. Okay, first dog, let's go ahead, pedal it out, move around a bit. And then next inhale, plank pose, top of a push-up. We're gonna lower all the way down. Come all the way to your belly, stay there. Prop up on your forearms, and you can either have palms flat or palms together, doesn't matter. And then pick both feet up, flex your feet. From here, take both feet and shins out to the sides, and then we're in internal rotation. And then bring them back to the midline. And repeat. Both shins and feet, same time, out to the side, and bring them back in. Okay, 3 more of those. You might be feeling this through your lower back, particularly if those internal rotators are weak and tight. For most of us, they are. We often have more strength in the external rotators than the internal rotators. Okay, I might have lost count there. Go ahead and release down. And then let's go ahead and come back to our down dog. We're gonna do a couple different variations here. Take your feet a little wider than your hips and turn your toes in and your heels out, like you're pigeon-toed. And then bend the knees a little bit, just to protect the knees. Send your sit bones up nice and high. Keep that slight bend in the knees and try to pull your feet apart isometrically. And then notice those outer leg, outer hip muscles fire. And then relax it. 2 more. Push down into the feet, pull apart. Be mindful of your knees. Keep that little bend. And release. 1 more time. Press down, pull apart. Good. Bring your feet back into neutral. Turn your legs back to neutral. Inhale, plank pose. Lower down. You can always drop your knees. And let's take a cobra. Inhale, cobra. Exhale down to your belly. Okay, take your right knee out to the side. So your knee lines up with your hip. You can have your head resting down, or you could be up on your forearms. And now bring your attention to your right shin and foot. And here we go again. Flex the foot, lift that shin and foot up, and lower it down. And repeat. Lift, feel that muscle engage, and release. Every time we lift, we're going into a little internal rotation. Notice your upper thigh bone. One more. Hold it up now, hold it up. Take a couple breaths. And let it go. Slide that leg back and let's do the other side. So if you're on a hard floor, you might want to make sure you have a little padding under the knee, because as you lift and lower that shin, it can be a little challenging on the knee. Flex the foot and then lift and lower. And you're going to notice one side might be a little easier than the other. So pay attention to those kinds of, imbalances in the body. Last one, and then hold it up. Hold it up there, take a breath or two. All right, let it go. Slide that leg back. Press yourself back up, downward facing dog. Next, inhale, sweep your right leg straight up behind you. We're gonna bend the knee and open the hip to the right. So lift your leg. So sometimes we call it fire hydrant, like your dog. Lift that knee up. So that's external rotation. Keep your arms level and firm. And now go to internal rotation by bringing the knee down and over towards your left. And then open it up in external rotation. Bring it across, internal rotation. One more. If this is too much, by the way, do it in tabletop position. And then set that foot down. Sweep the other leg up. Bend the knee. Externally rotate. Keep the arms level and firm. And then internally rotate. Bring that knee all the way across. Open it up. Bring it across. One more. Open it up. Bring it across. Set the foot down. Inhale, plank pose. Lower down. Inhale, cobra. Exhale down. Okay. Another one of these movements for the legs here. Right leg. First, imagine you're going to touch your foot to the wall behind you. Lengthen the leg. Then bend the knee. Okay, now it might be easier. I know you're probably trying to watch me. It might be easier if you put your head down. So watch first, and then we'll try it together. So I'm going to put my head down. We're going to lift the thigh and then externally rotate. Take that leg out to the side and bring the shin and foot down. Now we're going to reverse it. Lift the shin and foot, lift the thigh, bring it to center, thigh still up, thigh down, foot down. I'm going to talk you through it, okay? Put your head down, it'll be easier, so don't try to watch me. Lengthen your right leg back, bend the knee, thigh is still down. Lift the thigh, feel your glute engage. And now take that knee out to the side and set it down. And then shin and foot come down. Lift the shin and foot, internal rotation. Lift the thigh, bring the leg back to center and set it down. Okay, let's do that again. Lengthen your right leg, bend the knee. Lift the thigh. Take it out to the side, shin and foot down. Lift the shin and foot, internal rotation, lift the thigh, bring it back in, and release. One more time this side. Lengthen first, then bend. Lift, rotate, release. Lift shin and foot, lift thigh, bring it back in, thigh down, foot down. Take a pause, give your hips a little shimmy. And we're gonna do that 3 times on the other side. So lengthen your left leg back, bend the knee, lift the thigh, take it out to the side, ideally lining it up with your hip, foot comes down. Lift the foot, lift the thigh, bring it back in and release. 2 more times. Lengthen, bend, lift. Externally rotate. Shin and foot down. Lift the shin and foot, lift the thigh, bring it back in and down. You're gonna notice again, one side might be harder than the other. Last round on your own. Okay, once you finish, slide your hands back, press into tabletop position. Take both shins and feet out, feet out to the side, like we did before, and start to move back toward a child's pose and come forward. 2 more of those. Shift back, the thigh bones internally rotate a little bit and come forward. 1 more time. Good. Now, we're gonna try and sit back on the heels. So for a lot of us, this is challenging because we lack that internal rotation. So to modify, you're gonna grab a block and stick it behind your booty. And as you come up, you've got a little seat. Those of you who can are gonna sit in between your feet. So your shin bones and your feet and your ankles are kind of right outside of your hips, and you sit on the floor. Now that can be challenging for a lot of us on the knees, so do use the block if that's the case. So we call this Virasana. Try to sit up nice and tall. Spread out through your toes, lift your chest, lift the crown of your head. Hold it 1 more breath. And then come forward. Downward facing dog when you're ready. And maybe you want to stay there and pedal it out a little bit after sitting on your heels like that. That can be challenging. So straighten the legs out and pedal it out for a moment. From here, let's walk it forward, top of the mat, and fold over your legs. Come into a halfway lift and fold forward. Inhale, let's reach the arms all the way up. And exhale, hands to your heart. Very good. Okay, step the feet apart, outer hips distance. And we're gonna go for those pigeon toes again. So turn the toes in, heels out, and then bend your knees a little bit. So your thighs are internally rotating. Hands on hips, press down into your feet. And just like we did in dog, try to pull your feet apart isometrically. Feel those outer legs working. Hold that for another breath. Good, now from here, bend the knees a little bit more. Keep kind of pressing down and apart with your feet the whole time, and slowly straighten without going all the way straight, so about 80%. And then bend and straighten a few times. Whole time, push down and apart with your feet. Good. 1 more. Okay. Now from here, keeping that little bend in the knees, fold forward with your feet turned in a little bit. And notice how that kind of opens your lower back up a bit. Stay here or wrap your arms around the backs of your legs. So you could let your hands stay down on the floor or a set of blocks, or wrap your arms around the back. Take another breath. And then go ahead, release your hands if you wrapped. Bring your feet back to parallel, hands to your hips, rise all the way up. Good. All right, hope you guys are doing okay out there. We're gonna do a little balance work now. So feel free, if you need something to hold on to, you could be near a wall, a countertop, pull a chair over. Feel free if you need anything to help you with your balance, okay? So I'll give you a moment to do that if you need to. Feet are about hips distance, maybe a tiny bit wider. And then just bring hands on hips. And we're gonna bend the right knee a little bit and internally rotate it. As you take your knee into center, look to your opposite shoulder. Be mindful of your other knee and then come back to the center, okay? So let's try that on the other side. Bend the knee a little bit, turn it into center and look over your opposite shoulder. And now just go side to side. So this first part's not too bad. We're not standing on one leg yet, but we will. Just practicing that. One more round. Okay. Now, bring those feet in so they're now about hips distance apart. Stand on your right leg, bend your left knee and lift that knee up. Okay, if you can balance here, you're good. If you need to hold on to something, hold on to something. Flex your foot, that lifted foot, and we're gonna take it out to the side. That knee rotates in, and then just for fun, external rotation. Internal rotation, external rotation. Now, trick here is not to move your hips too much. The hips are gonna wanna compensate for the leg muscles that are weak. So in other words, don't do this with your hips. Try to isolate your leg. One more. Good, and release, shake it out. Okay, let's try that on the other side. Standing on your left leg, lift your right knee, flex your foot. Try to keep your hips stable as you take that foot out to the side. Internal rotation, external rotation. And repeat. And I know the hips are gonna move, mine are doing it too, but do the best you can to stabilize the hips. And then those muscles of the legs are gonna work a little harder, and the outer hips too. Good, and release, set it down, shake it out. Okay, top of your mat, we'll do a little flow now. Inhale, reach your arms up. Like, I'm hoping you guys are feeling those hips now. Exhale, fold. Halfway lift. And you can either take vinyasa or go right to dog. So you could step back and lower down, or you could go right to dog. Take your cobra or an up dog. Down dog. Okay, take the right leg, reach it up. This time, keep the leg straight. And we're gonna go external rotation, open the hip. Internal rotation, turn in. External, open it up. Internal, rotate it in. One more time. Gonna take that leg straight up now, step through. You're in a lunge. Spin your back heel down and cartwheel your arms up into warrior two. So I'm gonna come face the other direction. Okay, warrior two is external rotation. The back leg is slightly internally rotated, but it's really actually external rotated because the thigh is not rolling in towards center. It's actually a little open. Hold it here. So we're externally rotated. Watch for a moment. So I'm gonna go from warrior two. I'm gonna pivot onto my back foot and come into a lunge. So now my arms are out to a T, my legs and pelvis are kind of neutral. But now I'm going to turn my arms to the right and let my hips rotate a little bit. Bend that back knee. And then reach it up back to your warrior two. Okay, let's try that a few rounds on this side. So rotate into your lunge and then keep going. Turn those arms, turn the hips. Back leg internally rotates. Back to warrior two. So this is a little bit of a balancing act too. One more time. Rotate into high lunge and then keep going. Turn your arms, turn your hips a little. Back to warrior two. Very good. Cartwheel your hands down. Step it back, down dog, or take the vinyasa. You can always also take a child's pose if you need one. Okay, meeting in dog. On your next inhale, left leg up. Keep the leg straight. Open the hip, external rotation. Turn in, internal rotation. Two more. Open it up. Roll it in. Last one. Leg straight, step it all the way through. In your lunge. Back heel spins down, cartwheel your arms up, warrior two. That's it. Hold it there. Take a breath or two. Find your stability by rooting into your legs, your feet. And then here we go. Pivot onto that back foot. Come into your lunge. Keep turning. And then back to warrior two. Be mindful of that back knee. Okay, two more. Pivot. Keep rotating. Good. Back to the start. One more time. Pivot that foot, twist. And back to your warrior two. Cartwheel your hands down, step it back, down dog, vinyasa, or child's pose. Okay, very good. Let's go ahead and bring the knees down, and we'll all take a brief child's pose. We're going to transition now to some other work. Take one more breath where you are. Okay, we're going to grab one block, take it out to the side. So it's going to be off to the side of your mat. And another one that I'm going to have you guys watch, because this is some new stuff that I'm doing here. And by the way, so I know there's a couple of yoga teachers. So if you're interested in this topic, there's a teacher, Jenny Rawlings. This is kind of where I got inspired for this topic. She has a free Facebook group. She's got a good blog, a good podcast. And she talked about this topic. So some of this stuff I got from her. So I like to give credit where credit is due. So we're going to come into tabletop and take the right leg out to the side with your block behind your foot. Okay, so we're going to practice, again, internal and external rotation. So you're going to lift your heel up. And when you lift your heel up, you're going into internal rotation. Now try to lift that leg and touch it behind the block. And then bring your heel down and your toes lift. Now you're in external rotation. Lift that leg, bring it forward. So it's like leapfrog. Lift your heel, internal rotation. Lift your leg, bring it behind. Heel down, toes up. Lift and bring it forward. Good, let's do two more on this side. Lift the heel, lift, bring it back. Heel down, toes up. Bring it forward. Last time, heel lifts, lift the leg, bring it back. Heel down, toes up. And one last time, bring it forward. Okay, bring that leg back. If you need a quick child's pose, take one. So rest your arms. Just don't curse me out when you feel those hips tomorrow. And now let's try other side. Take your block over to the other side, or if you have another block, put that block out. And left leg is gonna go out to the side. So I'm gonna face you guys this time. Block starts behind the foot, and then lift the heel, lift the leg, bring it behind. Heel down, toes up, lift, and bring it forward. Okay, on your own, do a few more rounds. Now that you've got the drill. Remember, heel up first, and then heel down. Also uses the core here. I don't know if you noticed that, but the core is working as well. Last one. Okay, back in, back to child's pose. And then we're gonna come into seated. Bring your feet in front of you. Take a couple windshield wipers right to left. So one leg's internal, one leg's external. Now try that with your hands up off the floor. Maybe you bring your hands to your heart. Okay, you can stay working that or watch. I'm gonna go all the way over to one side and I'm gonna try and lift up. Then I'm gonna come down, go all the way over to the other side and lift up. You can skip that part if it's too much. So let's try a few rounds. Last round. Good. Come back to center. And now bring both knees over to the right and you can let your hands come down. Okay, so now some of us have trouble sitting like this. So if you do, sit up on something, a folded blanket, a pillow, or a block will be helpful. If you're okay, then you're gonna stay right here. Turn and bring your hands in line with your right knee, framing. Flex the back foot, and same thing we've been working on. Let's lift and lower that shin. And you'll notice in different orientations, it might be harder or easier. I find this one a little more challenging. Good, now we're gonna keep that foot and shin up like we did, and we're gonna do 10 little pulses. And then after 10, hold it up. Good, now we're gonna rock forward and back. So bring that shin down, lean back, lift the front shin up, and then come forward, lift the back shin up, and rock. Good. And come back to vertical. Bring your left hand on your left hip, if your right knee is the one that's forward. Now we're gonna do a twist again, almost like when we did that lunge thing. So you're gonna take your hand and help bring your left hip around to the front, look over your left shoulder, and then come back and your hip comes down. So this back hip is actually lifting off the ground as you turn and look over your left shoulder. And let's do 3 more. So again, it's a little rocky motion. One more. Good. Okay. So now we're going to do that whole thing on the other side. Bring your feet forward. Drop your knees over to the left. Lean forward, framing the knee. And we're going to lift that back shin. So flex the foot and then lift and lower the back shin. Lift and lower. On this next one, hold it up and do little pulses. And then hold it up and release. Okay, rocking motion, lean back, lift that shin and foot, come forward, lift the back. So we're lifting the front and then lifting the back. One more. Good. And then coming back down and we'll do the rotation. So right hand on right hip, other hand supporting, and then we're going to take that rotation, let that hip come forward and lift, look over your shoulder, and then come back and the hip comes down. And then rotate around. Let's do a few of those. Every time we rotate here, we're creating space in the lower back, in the SI joint area. So everything hip related is also lower back related because they're so close. And also the knees, because if our hips are tight, our knees will often kind of take that torque because they can't get that range of motion because the hips are so tight. All right, back to the center. Let's bring those feet back in. And just go ahead and do a little gentle windshield wiper once again. Okay. We're gonna drop the right knee out to the side, take the left leg out wide. Feel free to sit up on something if you prefer. Bring that right foot a little bit forward so it's not all the way tucked in. And we're gonna bring our hands behind us. And then we're gonna start to bring the foot flat and take it all the way over to the other leg and then open it back up. So external rotation to internal rotation. 3 more. Good. And then switch. Bring the foot out a little bit so you have a little bit room to grow, to move here. And then we're gonna lift that foot, bring it all the way across, and then open it out to the side. One more. Good. And now both legs out straight, pose we worked on last week. We're gonna make sure our toes and kneecaps are pointing straight up. So the legs are in neutral. So we're trying not to let them flop in or roll out. Keep them neutral. Start to hinge forward. Send your sit bones back and fold any amount forward. Stretching out the inner thighs. Press your thighs into the floor so quadriceps are engaged. So this is an active forward fold. And see if you can keep those toes and knees pointing up rather than rolling in. Let's take 3 more breaths. Okay, slowly start to come up and use your hands, bring those knees in. Okay, we're gonna grab our tennis balls next. And we're gonna do a little releasing of the muscles that we worked so hard tonight. So we're gonna bend the knees and be on our side. And you're gonna put the balls underneath the lower leg. Now I'm gonna have them up pretty high. So top of the outer thigh. And you could just be here with the weight gently pressing into the balls, or you could rock. So you might rock, and then as you rock forward, you're gonna get more pressure. So see how it feels. And if the rocking is too intense, then don't rock. You could also put a layer of blanket on top of the balls, which will make it a little softer. So we did a lot of work on these outer legs, a lot of that pulling apart work that we did. Now, take the balls, and if you have a single ball, you can use a single ball. Otherwise, like kind of squeeze them so that they separate a little bit, and pop one of the balls at the very top of your outer leg. And you're gonna rock onto that single ball. And that could be a little spicy. So again, feel free to pat it with a little blanket, or don't rock. So sometimes just holding it, and then you can control the pressure. If you rock, it's gonna increase that pressure, and I'm feeling it, it's pretty spicy. So we're getting close to like the area of the TFL. It's tensor fascial latae, something like that. The TFL is at the top here, and it's one of those muscles that helps internally rotate the legs. So we're giving it a little myofascial release. All right, let's go ahead, come off, and we're gonna switch it over to the other side. Balls on the upper outer leg somewhere, so they're like stacked on top of each other, and we're gonna rock if you like. Remember, you can always just hold it, listen to your body. Okay, and now again, you're gonna take one of the balls, so kind of squeeze it a little bit, get that single ball, upper outer leg, up as high as you feel like you can go. And then just try not to be right on the bone. You wanna be on fleshy parts, because the bone is gonna be like really intense. You don't want it on the bone, you want it on the muscle. And then rock in and out, if you like. Okay, go ahead and come off. And we're gonna be coming onto our backs now. Maybe you want a pillow for your head or folded up blanket. We're gonna need one block, and you're gonna need your balls, okay? So I'll give you a moment to get there. Actually, why don't you guys watch for a moment before you come on your back. I'm gonna show you this one. Again, it might be easier than once you're down, you can't see. So some of you are gonna want the block, some of you are not gonna want the block. So I'm gonna come down and put the block between my legs, and a blanket, maybe, or a pillow under the head. And I'm gonna drop the knees to the left, and then move the block so that it's under your right knee somewhere. Okay, so it looks like that. Then I'm gonna take my other leg on top, like we did before, and then that gives you more internal rotation. The balls are optional. So what I'm gonna do with the balls, I'm gonna come out just so I can tuck it in, but I just wanted to show you that first part. I'm gonna tuck the ball into my left outer hip somewhere, and then bring that knee down, other foot comes on top, and then the ball is gonna be like pressing into that outer hip, those glute medius and minimus muscles. So if you wanted to go deeper, you just take that block out of the way, And then that leg's gonna come closer to the floor, but that can be pretty intense. So decide, I'm gonna go for the block because I've been doing this sequence all week and I think that's gonna feel better for me today. Okay, so right knee comes to the block or toward the floor, left foot on top of the right outer leg, ball in your outer glute. So single ball, better if you can kind of squeeze them apart a little bit, or if you have a single ball. And now we're gonna stay here, breathe and hold for about 1 minute. So try to have that soft belly breath. When we breathe more diaphragmatically, it can help the body relax. Notice what you're feeling. Try not to check out and distract yourself. Because if you need to distract yourself from the pose, maybe you've gone a little too far. Maybe you want to back out or add the block. Can you let go just a little bit more? My back muscles maybe now just softened a bit more into the ground. Okay, so let's go ahead and release that top foot back to the floor. Bring the other knee back up and take your balls out and pause. You maybe feel like you want to do a little windshield wiper. That might feel okay after doing that. And now we'll even ourselves out. So you're going to bring that left knee down to the block or toward the floor. You can use your other foot to adjust where the block is. Actually, put the ball in first. I keep forgetting to do that first. And then bring the right foot on top. And you might play with where the ball is. So sometimes if you move it a little bit, it's more tolerable. I just moved it down a bit and that was better for me. So the block kind of gives you a little break, a little stopping point so that that leg doesn't go all the way to the floor. But we're still getting that good internal rotation here. Holding it for about 1 minute. See if you might be able to let go just a little more. Okay, let's go ahead, slowly release. Foot down, bring that knee up, take the ball out, slide your block out of the way. And again, maybe you want to do a little windshield wipers. And let's walk the feet back in, bring the knees into the chest. And rock it right, left, or make circles. So as I mentioned, if that internal rotation is inhibited, it can really aggravate our lower back. So hopefully you didn't overdo, but just massage out that lower back after all the work we did. Now move the knees a little away from you. So arms are straight, hold the knees and rock again. It's gonna hit a little lower. So if you pull the knees all the way in, it's gonna hit higher, but now let's hit a little lower. Okay, bring them back in. And if you want to move into happy baby, move into happy baby, external rotation. So it might feel nice after all the internal rotation we did. You can be still or you could rock, or you could stick with a knee hug if happy baby's not your jam. So listen to what your body needs. And then we're gonna hug those knees back into the chest one more time. And then you can find your Shavasana. Time for rest. You worked hard. So add any props you might like. Maybe like we talked about last week, if that lower back bothers you, you might wish to have a bend in your knee. So maybe something under the knees, pillow, bolster, blocks. Maybe you want to cover up to be nice and warm. So take your time, make sure you set yourself up well so you feel warm and comfortable. And then as you come onto your back, can you just start to really release the body, release the hips, release the lower back. And use your breath, especially those exhales. Bring your awareness and your attention to your exhales. Follow those exhales all the way out. Empty the breath. And then let the inhale be soft, sweet, gentle, subtle. Following the exhales all the way out. And every time you exhale, find something else you might be able to soften, something else you might be able to let go. Let your body land a little bit more into the ground. We'll take our time to start to return now. Take some deeper breaths, some small movements. Try not to hurry. And start to make any movement you like before coming onto your side, and do pause there for a few breaths. After you've had a short pause on your side, let's go ahead and return to a seated posture. Keep moving slowly. And then once you're right there, we'll sit up nice and tall. You can let the hands rest down for a moment. Maybe close your eyes, take a few more moments, a few more breaths. And I'm going to share a little final reading. This is by Cole Arthur Riley, and it's called Prayer for Beauty in the Mundane. God of every beautiful thing, make us people of wonder. Show us how to hold on to nuance and vision when our souls become addicted to pain, to the unlovely. It is far easier to see the gloom and decay, so often it sings a louder song. Attune our hearts to the good still stirring in our midst. Not that we would give ourselves to toxic positivity or neglect the pain of the world, but that we would be people capable of existing in the tension. Grant us habits of sacred pause. Let us marvel not just at the grand or the majestic, but beauty's name etched into every ordinary moment. Let the mundane swell with a mystery that makes us breathe deeper still. And by this, may we be sustained and kept from despair. And now bring palms together in front of your heart space. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, bow inward to your heart. Namaste. All right, thanks everyone. Feel free to